I recently got the chance to watch Ethan Cohen's solo feature, Drive Away Dolls, and I thought it was okay. The movie focuses on two women who embark on an impromptu road trip to Tallahassee, Florida, and while the two happen to be looking for a fresh start, things quickly go awry when they cross paths with a group of inept criminals along the way. Geraldine Viswanathan stars as an uptight office worker named Marion, with Margaret Qualley starring as a free-spirited woman named Jamie. And I really like both of these actresses. The two co-stars have pretty solid chemistry with one another, which is good since they basically carry the film on their own shoulders. And I liked the yin and yang of their characters' relationship. Marion is in desperate need of adventure, while Jamie just wants to get out of town to avoid the wrath of her ex-girlfriend, played by a very funny Beanie Feldstein. So there are other memorable actors in the film, actors like Pedro Pascal and Matt Damon for example, but unfortunately, these performers aren't in the movie for very long. And while I personally would have liked seeing more of these two actors, I understand why we don't see much of them in the first place. Drive Away Dolls is about these two women who go on a road trip and get into some shenanigans along the way. Hijinks occur wherever they go, but that doesn't stop them from continuing on with their journey. So Marion and Jamie sign up for a job driving a car one way from Philadelphia to Florida, unwittingly activating a chain of comically violent events. And they run into a bunch of bumbling criminals along the way, which is a pretty typical staple in a Coen Brothers film. So even while Ethan has gone solo on this project, his usual directorial style does permeate this feature. But that's also my biggest issue with the movie. As someone who isn't the biggest fan of the Coen Brothers in the first place, which may sound blasphemous to some people, Ethan's directorial style doesn't always work for me here. Drive Away Dolls is supposed to be a comedy, for example, but a lot of the humor in this movie fell really flat for me. So there were plenty of scenes that were filled with awkward and airless space. Plus, there were a handful of important plot beats that hit the same note as several throwaway gags. So I was never quite sure when something was going to be funny and forgotten about, or serious and called back to. Which may not be a problem for some people, but the lack of variation in tone made for a rather dull experience, in my opinion. I mean, I am glad that some people have been able to enjoy this feature, especially considering how refreshingly feminist it is, but the movie as a whole just didn't work for me. I don't think it's a particularly bad film, I just think that this raunchy road trip wasn't my personal cup of tea. So if you're already a fan of the Coen Brothers and their unique quirky style, then I think you will also find this movie to be rather entertaining. But if you're like me, and you're not the biggest fan of the Coen Brothers to begin with, then I think you may find Drive Away Dolls to be a meandering feature that is rather unfunny. Which means that Drive Away Dolls would, unfortunately, not get a recommendation from me. But I would still love to see more Ethan Coen features in the future, since he is clearly a talented filmmaker in his own right. And I appreciate anyone who stuck around to hear my full thoughts on this 4-month-old movie. So, as always, thanks for watching.